like to call the meeting to order. Please turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate if you would. At 7 o'clock, I'd like to welcome you all to the Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 meeting here at the Annex. I would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Voorhees.
Present.
Trustee Powell.
Here.
Treasurer Roman.
Here.
Supervisor Kowal.
Here.
Clerk Noble here. Trustee Ruggles.
Here.
And Trustee Smith.
Here.
Okay. Motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion. Looking for support? Support from Mr. Powell. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item number 5, public comment. At this time, you have 3 minutes to come forward and state your business to the Township Board. Anyone in the public taking? Citizen Keller.
Good evening, Supervisor. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak at public comment. There's a gentleman that spoke last meeting in reference to his disdain for Walmart and Meijer and Kroger. And I felt the need to rebut his comments. So here, I wanted to give you some facts from about those stores. Meijer proudly donates more than 6% of its net profit each year to charities throughout the Midwest. Hunger is our corporate philanthropic focus. Meijer partners with hundreds of food banks and pantries through its Simply Give and food rescue program. Additionally, Meijer donates $3 million to local charities annually, and the White Lake Police Foundation is one of them. Kroger, on average, Kroger of Michigan donates more than 5 million pounds of food to our communities and families in need annually. The Kroger of Michigan partners with more than 90 local, county, and state law enforcement agencies, including White Lake, to build unity in our communities and to bring more donations to help people in need. The Kroger Company of Michigan supports nearly 4,000 nonprofits annually to the tune of more than $5 million in funds and food, including the White Lake Police Foundation. Walmart. Each year, Walmart U.S. stores and clubs award local cash grants ranging from $250 to $5,000. These local grants are designated to address the unique needs of each community in which they operate, including the White Lake Police Foundation. In 2022, Walmart stores and clubs have provided $44 million in local grants. In 2022 alone, the Walmart Foundation provided additional funding to reach 1.1 million people with nutrition education. And their process is Feeding America. 64% of the food that they donated were fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and meats. This work is done in collaboration with groups like Feeding America and local food banks, which are, some of them are in the White Lake area. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Meijer gave us $5,000 for Shop with a Cop. Walmart gave us $2,500 for Shop with a Cop. Meijer provided pizza for all the families and the kids that are less fortunate to have a good day for their family on Christmas. Walmart provided a turkey dinner for everybody, all the kids that they supported, and their families, gave them the gift cards. Each gave a gift card of $100 apiece, so their families could shop and support their families during the Christmas season. And Kroger has a Year Zero Hunger Day, which we participated in August. We raised several $100s and raised 400 or 500 pounds of food that were donated to local food pantries. So I just feel it necessary that we should support Meijer, we should support Walmart, and we should support Kroger because they make our community better. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time? Public comment.
Thank you. I didn't want to go with that contraption on.
Thank you. I'd just like to say this is my last meeting as an Oakland County Commissioner, and it's just been a pleasure representing White Lake Township. I won't be far. If you need me for anything, I'd be glad to get involved. And I did save my sign, so you never know. Things could change, but I just wanted to say you guys are just doing a great job. I'm proud to live in White Lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you for your service. Anyone else in the crowd? I will close public comment at this time. Moving on to consent agenda. Motion on consent agenda.
Motion
Mr.
to
Mike.
approve consent agenda.
I have motion to approve consent agenda. I have support. Motion and support. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Minutes, approval of the minutes of regular board meeting on November 22nd. Questions, comments? Mr. Powell, would you like to approve?
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of November 22nd, 2022.
Thank you. Excuse me.
I just have one comment on the consent agenda, if you just want to finish your.
Oh, okay. We have approved the agenda, and we have approved the minutes. Mr. Heber, we will hear you. What did we do?
We didn't vote
Oh,
on
excuse
it.
me. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We all
Opposed?
second it.
All right, yes, sir.
You support, Mike supported it, didn't you? I thought he did.
I do now.
Yeah, that's what I thought I heard.
That was the minutes, right?
I'm sorry, Mr. Heber.
Andrew, did you
That's
support it,
That's
Andrea?
okay.
No.
I just wanted to point out on the consent agenda, D, with the appointing of the board of review members. In November, you approved the hardship guidelines. I was here, and I made the comment that the board of review members are staying the same. Well, from that time to now, there was a change in the board of review members. Kevin Keller is no longer wants to serve on the board, but his wife has put her application in or wants to be on the board. She is on your memo. She's a real estate appraiser. So that is a change, and you're adding another alternate, Debbie DeHart. So I wanted to point that out. I said otherwise at the November meeting, it's changed, and it would have been disingenuous just to slide it through on the consent agenda without pointing that out to you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 8, presentations. Earlier this month at the Christmas extravaganza, White Lake Township acknowledged somebody did a great little job writing something up because it came in blind. I want everybody to know that. When these things come into the township, we receive them from the school districts. They have absolutely no, recognition of who it is. It's essay 1 through whatever, and there's no secret watermarks that we hold up to the light, and do stuff like that. And we happen to have our own Reagan Keller, the daughter of the Keller family, and she won that award. And in that process, unfortunately, Senator Runstead's office was not able to make it, and I know that Commissioner Eileen Kowal wasn't available to make it at that time. So I'd like you to come forward and come on forward. Right, you can stand next to the podium, and then I believe Teresa is going to present you with something.
Hi, Reagan. Hi. It's nice to meet you. And on behalf of State Senator Runstad, it is a pleasure and an honor to be here celebrating you and your scholarship representing generosity and service. These are two important characteristics of emotionally healthy people, and they're also fundamentally important to great communities and civilizations. So as we celebrate your scholarship award based on years of systematic habits of generous volunteer work, we're excited to watch you take this leadership characteristic with you on the next part of your life's journey as you inspire others to live generously through these acts of service. So on behalf of the Senator and the state of Michigan, we'd like to present you with this tribute for your Fran Anderson scholarship. And basically, I do want to just point out a few of these amazing feats that she's accomplished. Reagan, as Mike pointed out, I'm so sorry, Rick. Oh my gosh, I'm with your brother all the time, and I hear him say I'm not Mike, and I just did the same thing to you. I'm so sorry. So she's a White Lake resident and has been actively involved in service work from a young age. That's where the systematic habit thing came in. When you start off that young, it becomes a habit, which is really important because These things are not a once a day kind of thing, it's an everyday thing. So in 8th grade, she was accepted into the National Junior Honor Society, where she worked on service projects such as delivering food to the elderly through Meals on Wheels and joining an initiative at her school to stop drug use. That's awesome. Reagan is the face of substance, I'm sorry, you're not the face of, you're not the face of that. I'm sorry, I need my glasses adjusted here. So Reagan joined the Lakes Area Youth Action Board, where she served as secretary, encouraging others to resist peer pressure in the face of substance abuse. By the end of the year, she more than doubled her required 25 hours of service, finishing with over 60 hours. Reagan was then admitted to the International Academy, where she joined forces with White Lake Township Police Department on an autism awareness campaign, creating sensory bags for children with autism in emergency situations. She now serves as the International Academy West Youth Representative for Huron Valley Community Coalition. All great service organizations. So thank you so much for what you've done and who you've become and where you're going to be as a leader in this area, serving others and inspiring others. Again, on behalf of State Senator Runstad, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And again, the Fran Anderson Award is given to one student from each of the 4 communities that participate, which would be Waterford, White Lake, Pontiac, and Auburn Hills. So thank you for representing us. Thank you very much, and wish you well in your endeavors.
And as someone that knew Fran Anderson personally, she would be very proud. She was a great lady.
Okay, 9A, Resolution 22043, authorizing ALS equipment purchase, Stryker. Chief, this was the equipment that we talked about back on quite a while ago. And it was moved by Kowal, supported by Clerk Noble. Proceed, resolution, la, 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 la. So now we have the equipment in motion, and I know that we have,
You just need a motion to approve the resolution.
yes, okay. All right, so we're moving forward with this to formalize this request, okay?
Yes.
Anything to add?
No, we have taken delivery of most of the equipment. We're still waiting on the station battery chargers, which probably won't be here till the end of January.
Okay, all right. Questions, comments from the board?
I'll make a motion.
Please
I have
do.
a quick question.
Whoop.
With all this pretty much in place, when will we officially become ALS?
I can't answer that. It's a very slow process.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, because once I haven't even started the licensing process yet. When I do that, because we're on the Bennett bill, the clock starts ticking. It's a 2-year, pilot program. So that's the last thing I'm going to do.
Right,
I'm going to
right.
have everything in place. Right now, I'm working with the bargaining unit, because we do have to talk about shift differential payments and that. So once we get through that, then it's going to start going a lot faster.
Thank you.
Chief, a lot of this equipment's updating on their equipment that we need within like the township, the AEDs and the fire stations and the
That is
senior
correct.
center.
With this purchase, we've already taken possession of the new AEDs within the township buildings and replacements on our apparatus too.
Appreciate you grabbing that equipment and getting it
Yeah,
out
saving us
fast.
some
and
money.
It's
Yeah.
money and it's important
And
with the
time.
lives.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution authorizing ALS equipment purchase, resolution number 22-043.
I have a motion, look for support.
Support.
I have support from trustee.
Can I ask a question, please?
Certainly.
What do we do with our old AEDs?
Traded them in. That was part of the
That was
package
a
deal.
trade-in, okay,
Yep.
because I didn't know if we could donate them to churches and other groups and things
That
like that.
gentleman
but-
came and gave a presentation from Stryker.
Yes, I do remember
Yeah,
that. That's,
we
I
traded them in.
okay, thank you.
It's been a while.
Yep, it has been.
We have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Request for enter into litigation for 9885 Cedar Island Road. I'm going to let the Community Development Director touch on this just for a moment with Tanning, or you want to go right to Nick?
Nick really is the kind of the tip of the spear on this one. That though I've been involved and know what's going on, it's really been an enforcement issue that Nick has been at the forefront of.
Nicholas?
Sure. Good evening, Board. 9885 Cedar Island Road, I think it was last February. We went out to this property at the request of the property owner's son. We were told that the property owner was living on the property in a structure that he didn't really get into much detail, but we went out onto the property to try to meet with the owner and found that there is a mobile home structure on the property. Was not able to speak with anybody at the time. They were not there. After a little bit more digging, talking with the son, found out that the property, he is certain that his father's living there. Well, his father has another home address that, in the township that he supposedly resides in. We did do some more digging, found that the property, that the mobile home on the property is not licensed. There was never any building permits for it. It's been there since between 2002 and 2005, based on aerial views. The house or the structure is full to the brim. It's unfortunately a hoarder situation, as I would call it. The property is a mess. Also found out that the property does not have a septic field or well. Fast forward to this year, well, I guess I should go back. Spoke with the son. The son continued, really wanted us to get his father out of that situation. We didn't really have anything. We sent a notice to vacate the property. The owner was very adamant that he is not living on the property. Went back a couple more times. The gate was locked. Never could get onto the property. Fast forward now to a week ago? Mm-hmm. About a week ago, the fire department got a call out to the property for a fire, and one of the vehicles that was at the property was on fire. John happened to respond to the call and got to the property and found out that the gentleman was inside the mobile home. Fortunately, got him out. John can give a little more detail on that, but he was very comfortable. He had no shoes on. He seemed to be in kind of loungewear, and he appeared to be living in the structure. So really what this comes down to is it's a dangerous situation. The gentleman is, I would say, in his mid-80s, and he has not been the easiest to work with in the past. So I think this is going to take some legal action. Chief Holland has also reached out to the state and tried to go that route, but I'm not confident that we're going to get any headway. We didn't last year. The son tried the same thing last year, and it did not go anywhere. So all that to say, we do believe that's a dangerous situation. The home should not be occupied. I'm not even going to call it a home. The structure should not be occupied. Based on observation, they have electrical cords running from the garage into the home to run space heaters, we're assuming, but there's no power to the structure. So it's just not a good situation, and I don't believe we're going to make any headway without some legal action. So that is where we're at.
Okay. Chief Holland, you care to report on the fire?
Yeah, well, when we responded to this, we found the car fire. It was probably within about 10 feet of the home. There is so much debris that is littering that property between the home and the fire that the fire had extended to most of that debris once I got there. So there was fire within about a foot of the home. He had no idea there was a fire even there.
When you guys refer to the home, you're talking about the trailer.
We're talking about the trailer, the mobile home.
Is there a house on the
No,
property?
the mobile home.
No house on the property?
No house, nothing there legal. I say he is obviously, by all impressions, using extension cords as a source of power. When it all comes down to it, and he's right. The way I put it in my report is we found him in a state of, he really was was unaware of the fire, no shoes, no jacket, just kind of answered the door looking around. and I got a fire within about a foot of me trying to get him out. I think at this point, this individual really doesn't seem to be able to make a rational decision for his own well-being, for his own safety, and for our safety. We have to respond there. And when this happens, I think it's time that we step in. We step in and we kind of take control of the situation. I had initially requested to get an administrative search warrant to get on the property. And after I talked with Lisa Hamami on this, she felt this is probably the better way to go, so.
Okay. Any question, comment from the board?
I apologize, I didn't have a chance to speak to Mr. Spencer earlier, but is just a little bit explained to me why this isn't going through the dangerous building process? Like through the hearing process?
It's not a structure.
So
We're not considering it a home?
there's a lot going on here because, like I said, that structure has been there for 20 years at this point. It wasn't permitted to be there, but it has been there for 20 years. We were told nobody was living there. So up until a week ago, we were under the impression that nobody was living there. So could it go through the dangerous buildings process? I suppose, but it would be a very lengthy process, and I don't think it would go well.
Counselor?
This is a little bit unique than the dangerous buildings we usually see in the sense that usually we see vacant structures that are in a dangerous condition and requiring demolition. This is a structure where somebody is currently living. And so I advise that we probably want to take the circuit court route in this case to make sure that we get an order and we also get intervention, if we can, from agencies that can help him, so that we're not, I mean, otherwise you're forcibly removing him from a structure that he considers his home in order to demolish it. I think it's safer for the township from a liability standpoint to go this route since he's living there. And since we need to find a solution for him.
So if we engage circuit court, like DHS will then be possibly engaged, like adult protective services or something along those.
We have been, last year, we reached out to all of the agencies we could think of. I think, Nick, you were even reaching out to like Salvation Armies and stuff to try to, right?
Well, the son was.
Trying to find some help for him, but nobody was able to help because he denied living in this structure. And he has somewhere to go because he has his son who wants to help him. The son can't get a court order to get him out. And so I think that we, as the township, we should kind of take a step back and make sure that we go through the court and have the judge order certain things happen.
So we're overreaching, in my opinion, into his personal life of what happens to him, whether it's, you know, a welfare check or he needs a guardianship or anything. Like, that's not for us as the board to talk about or decide. So I just wanted to know the process of the actual structure, if, you know, why we were going to court versus dangerous building.
And coupled with the fact of the timing, because dangerous building, you know, takes several months. There's a whole process of notices that are required and public hearings that are required. If we went the circuit court route, we can be in front of a judge in a week.
Okay.
If I could add one thing, on top of just this issue, there's a blight situation, which is an ordinance issue that goes beyond just the dangerous buildings process. That's a pretty narrow scope. And he's also storing boats illegally on the property. So there's quite a variety of things.
Citations been issued for all of that?
I don't know that we were fully aware of all of that yet. So I think when you kind of combine the whole situation, I think the best, our feeling is in talking as a group and with Lisa is just to go the route of taking circuit court action because of the land use violations as opposed to writing him just simply tickets through the district court process, which is usually how we would handle a violation like that. When you take the sum total of all these kind of unfortunate parts, you know, I guess the good news is there's not, you know, it's not in a neighborhood where there are a ton of neighbors who are subjected to this, but it's still a dangerous situation. And like the chief said, you know, it's only a matter of time before they're called back out again for something like this. He's not only storing dangerous, combustible materials, but he's trying to heat a a structure that's not a home, not designed to be used in the way he's using it. And so the next time they show up, it could be there could be a fatality, and then we're
Understand
faced.
the safety issue. I was
Sure.
just curious of
Yeah.
why we were, looking at one scenario versus the other. That's all.
So,
Yeah.
Nick, sorry if I ask a question. You said something about wasn't permitted to be there. Would you actually need a permit to put a mobile structure? It's not permanent, right? It's just sitting there. It's like a trailer.
So this is a
modular home.
a mobile home, like a trailer from a mobile home park. This is not an RV. This is actually a mobile home. Actually, by ordinance, a mobile home is not to be placed on a residential piece of property in the township. So technically, yeah, it's not permitted to be there. It does not have a septic or legal septic field. I've spoken with the county. They may have a septic field that they've put in on their own, but they do not have a legal septic field, do not have a legal well. They are running power from the barn through cords and heating with, we believe they're heating. I don't know if you've seen it for sure, but we
According to
believe.
his son, he's heating the mobile home with space heaters.
Space
off
heaters.
Off the electrical cords.
But none of that's an issue. Yeah, he can do that if he wants. There's nothing wrong with that. It's his property. He could run an extension cord and have a space heater.
You can't use extension cord as permanent power. He's using it as permanent power.
Correct.
But we're assuming that it's permanent,
There's no power to the structure. There's no power to the
Yeah, but
structure,
we're
and it's being used as a residential structure. It does not, it doesn't meet code requirements, doesn't meet property maintenance requirements.
But the assumption we're making is that he is living in there 24/7. He could occupy it some hours of the day. It doesn't make it his permanent residence, right? He could be in there throughout the day and turn on a space heater and then leave.
He could, sure.
We're just assuming that
We
he
also
lives
know
there
that he doesn't
full-time.
have a license. He does have another home on in the township that we were told he was living in. I've been to both homes. You're lucky if you can walk through either of them. That's where the other issue is. If fire were to show up at this house, there's no way they're going in. There's no way. There's so much stuff in the doorway even that they would have to let it burn. Or else they risk the chance of one of the firemen dying. It's that bad. So I see where you're coming from, but it's one of those things that we either take some action on it or we let it go. And, I think we have a responsibility, me as the building official, technically, that structure should have never been there to begin with. And I know it's 20 years ago, but we're at where we're at, so.
So just kind of.
Hang on, Mr. Powell?
Yes, and I certainly see where everyone's going. Dangerous building hearing would probably not be proper because there may not be anything structurally wrong with the mobile home sitting there or the trailer, however, the manufactured home sitting there. I guess I have a question because the document before us says that it's in violation of local or state laws, potential violation of state laws. So we're being asked to initiate a lawsuit against this property with really nothing being presented to us with any violation at all from any of our ordinances. No zoning. So it's been represented that there's a zoning ordinance violation, but there is a process for dealing with a zoning ordinance violation that hasn't been followed through on, at least from what I can understand now. So we need to certainly help the son out and help the situation, but I feel it may be a little premature. I don't understand what action this board is being asked to take right now.
I think Counselor, go ahead and elaborate.
Well, there are a number.
When you elaborate, can you also explain how whatever order you're looking for would get enforced?
So,
Go slow so I can dissect it.
there
Include
are.
if we have a hoarding ordinance.
There are a number of violations on the property. I think first and foremost, it's not zoned to allow a manufactured home there. That's violation number one.
If it's being used as a home,
And from
Assumption.
information that we received from the
Sounds like
the
it might be a
occupant's
storage
son,
unit.
Son,
he is living there,
But that's a zoning ordinance violation.
which is
Have
what,
we notified them in writing that there's a zoning ordinance violation?
we have, he's already done that.
There was a notice to vacate and in that, within that notice stated that, that structure was not supposed to be there. It's per ordinance, it was not permitted to be on that property.
Okay, so it's a zoning ordinance violation that you're going to file suit against.
and it's an occupancy of an unpermitted structure,
You have to prove occupancy, right?
which the son has told, I mean, we have the testimony of his son that he lives there,
Well, but that's just hearsay unless you have them in court.
or in an affidavit.
So you're going to get that from the son?
Yeah.
But we don't have that now, right?
You wouldn't want me to go through all of our ordinance, prepare a lawsuit, get it all ready with affidavits, and then come and ask you, can we get moving on this litigation?
No, but you're asking us to authorize you to take action, and you didn't provide us any information as to what action you're asking us to give you.
Well, there's zoning violations.
Okay, we're hearing that.
There's occupancy issues.
Okay.
There's septic water issues.
How? There isn't septic or water.
That's exactly
That's
right. He's
exactly it.
occupying the structure.
But you're back to assuming he's occupying the structure. How can somebody live in there without septic and water?
I think we're limited without being able to move ahead legally, I think, and Lisa's our attorney, but we're really limited as to how far we can go with trying to prove some of these things.
Does he
We
get mail
cannot-
there?
Pardon?
Does he get mail there?
That I don't know.
Maybe that's something we should check.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is.
Because if he gets mail there, he's living there.
And the
Did you-
septic and water is
Well,
a public health
and if he's
issue
not
that
getting
the
that,
health
that's not
department.
totally.
We've asked them.
One at a time, one at a
They won't get
time.
involved.
I've already asked the health department to get
Yeah.
involved, and they will.
That's not unusual.
They will support
don't.
us. They will support us.
Okay.
But they will not take any formal enforcement action.
Okay.
Kind of.
I think by this action, Mike, what happens is these items will all be brought to the forefront and a resolution will be put in place. It is merely a tool for us to have so we can move forward to hopefully help this gentleman move into a safer place. There were some of his family that wanted him out and other members said, just leave him be. And so there's like, you're not going to get necessarily full cooperation from the family. But we cannot have our emergency services going to these places knowing that it's a hazardous surroundings, it's a hazardous potentially hazardous occupancy, and is in violation of multiple ordinance violations and mostly public safety. We don't want this gentleman to become a victim of his own
Well, obviously
living.
not.
Yeah.
If there's a barn and a garage on the property, obviously there was a principal residence there at some time.
I don't know. This is the site of the old Chapel landfill. There's a cell tower on this property and a small structure associated with that. I don't know. I mean, if there was a home on there, it's been decades.
So he has electric service in his garage,
In the barn.
and he pays the bill for that?
I don't know.
He's getting juice from somewhere.
Yeah, you would check their Edison bill.
So I just want to say for the record, we're not doing this or moving ahead because we've been contacted by the family again. What's brought this back to the forefront is, a year ago, we did send violation notices that were not corrected. I believe, though I have not been out there, I think we've discussed the situation. The blight situation has gotten worse. In addition, now he's storing boats, which is just another violation of the zoning ordinance. But first and foremost, it's not boats and it's not a bunch of junk. It's the health, safety, welfare.
Pictures real quick while you guys are talking.
Health, safety, welfare of an individual, and so we're at a point where we can go no further without your approval. So it's really up to the seven of you. If you want us to move ahead and try to mitigate this, we will, and if you don't, then we won't. But I think it's our responsibility to let you know that there is a potentially dire situation, and, and it involves our first responders and an elderly resident of our community, and we're at a point where at the administrative level, we can't do anything else without your approval. We understand. Sorry?
Have you had any complaints from anybody? Has somebody filed a complaint against him?
I don't think so. There's several acres here, and I don't think, it's wooded. I don't think, other than the family, we've heard from anyone. It's somewhat isolated.
And gated.
And it's gated, yes. And
Where is that? I visited the site today. I didn't get out of my car. But where is that site compared to the cinder blocks buildings? that I saw, and I didn't even find a mailbox. I put it on my GPS, and if it weren't for the
Cinder
GPS.
blocks, I think, Andrea, there's two gates. The first gate with the
Okay.
cell tower, there's a cinder block building. The
Yep.
next gate is where he occupies.
Okay.
And it's pretty secluded, it's hard to see.
Absolutely.
He locks himself in there.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
once he's in there, he shuts the gates, he locks the gates. I had to push my way, luckily, I'm not a real big guy, I had to open the gate up and slide my way through dirt when the fire was going on to get in there.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable. I know we're allowed to go through. I just don't feel comfortable by myself. But yeah, it was pretty desolate. You guys are describing it very
Board members, I think
accurately.
a lot me personally, as far as enforcement, as I'm looking for, is just legal access to the property. I don't think he's gonna cooperate. I just would like to get on the property and take a look, for starters. And legally, I just can't go on somebody's private property, go through their gate and start conducting an inspection.
So I have two questions before we continue. Do we have an ordinance, although hoarding is, I recognize, not safe for our first responders? I don't believe we have any ordinance to enforce that, just to say that this is a hoarding issue and therefore unsafe for our responders, so we're going to move forward with litigation. And then the second part is, do we have any other mechanism, Lisa, that would allow Chief to inspect this property than a lawsuit?
Yes. Chief originally asked me to get him an administrative search warrant so he can go onto the property.
Okay.
My question to him is, what are you going to do once you're on the property? You're going to see all these violations. You're not going to be able to do anything. If the township board authorizes us to pursue litigation, you can get access onto the property through the litigation, and then you have a judge that's helping you enforce whatever action you think needs to happen.
And
Well,
what about
could
the
you-
hoarding issue?
Could you tell me what document you're going to present to the judge that is going to authorize you to do this? Because
An emergency order.
an emergency order stating what?
Emergency order, after I get all of the evidence and I get the affidavit from the son testifying to the fact that his dad's living there, after I get all the information from the fire chief as to his observations and all the fire codes, and the affidavit from the building official talking about all of his observations and the violations of the building code, and an affidavit from the zoning, the community development director about the zoning ordinance, I would list all of these through affidavits, present it all to the judge, telling her that not only is this in violation of the building code, the fire code, the zoning ordinance, it's an unsafe structure, and we're asking that you order it be vacated and physically removed from the property.
How's that enforced?
And a bailiff would help out with the eviction, like you would evict somebody from a house.
They'd actually come in and
Physically
remove
remove
him
you from the structure.
Can I ask one more
We
question?
have worse than this in White Lake, and we haven't done that to other residents.
Understand that, that's just a picture of where the fire is at. There's a big piece of property there all around it. That's just what I have, what we took pictures of.
I mean, we have residents that are worse than this, unfortunately. Okay, thank you for sharing the photos.
Question. I thought you said that the structure is not allowed to be there legally. Is that correct? That structure is not allowed to be on that property legally?
It is legally not supposed to be on that property.
Okay, can you enforce that?
Yes.
Because by enforcing that, you take away the opportunity to live there.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
Would that be easier
Well-
than gathering all this proof? The proof, we know for sure that the structure is there.
Well, if you're going to file a lawsuit, you're going to include all of the violations that you're aware of.
Okay. So one of the court orders could be to remove the
The
trailer?
structure. One of the court orders would definitely be to remove the structure as an unlawful structure on the property once we get past the zoning. She's not going to order that in an emergency order, but that will be the long end game of the litigation, is to have it removed from the property. If we were to file a motion for emergency action, it would be to get him out of the property for the time being as an unsafe, unsanitary structure. The long-term goal is clean it all up.
So that structure, is it legally able to be there if its use is different? If it's used as a storage unit?
It's not.
Even though it's temporary, it's not permanent.
A mobile home is a permanent structure.
Permanent structure.
It is considered a permanent structure. It is licensed through HUD, through the state. It is a legal, a legally licensed structure that is built. And it's not meant to be temporary. It's not meant to be hauled from place to place like a trailer, an RV is. It is, it's meant to stay in
Irregardless
place.
of, and that's irregardless of installation? I mean, it doesn't have anything that you would find with one of these, right? It's not sitting on a pad, doesn't have juice, no water, no.
So from a zoning standpoint, vacant residential property cannot be used for storage. You cannot store boats on it, you cannot store trailers on it. So whether this was a structure or not, if it was an RV, he can't store on vacant property. And we do this, like most communities do, because we don't want this to turn into what this has turned into, which is, as you can see here, those are, there's quite a bit of junk and old, probably, vehicles in disrepair, but you can clearly see freshly tarred boats. So people are bringing their boats here and storing them. We do have an ordinance, 4.60, that allows someone to obtain a special land use to live on a piece of acreage and isolate an area of it and store, with a special land use, store boats, but that's not what's going on here. No one lives here. Here is the barn that I don't know when it was built, and that was referenced by Nick, and here is the trailer that the chief was just talking about that was nearly involved in a fire and the debris that's around it.
And there's no wheels under it at all.
I have a question. Does a mobile home, does it have a VIN, vehicle identification number on it?
They have a HUD number.
Well, it's like a manufactured house. It's not anything that moves.
That's correct.
Yeah,
It's-
so-
it's
So-
brought in on a trailer. It's
Yeah.
brought in on wheels.
Right, they're
Just
brought in
like a
on like a
mobile home
wide-
park. If you were to go into one of our Cedar Brook or one of the other mobile home parks, those are all brought in on wheels. They are lifted onto a pseudo foundation. They're they're to sit on a foundation. The wheels are removed. I don't know if the wheels are still on this or not, but that structure has been there for 20 years.
This is on blocks, is it not? It's not on a poured foundation, it's not on a crawl space or a basement.
It's on blocks.
This is on blocks.
All right, so there seems to be a number of different things that are part of this problem. I would recommend that for the general public safety and start the process to allow attorney to move forward simply because of these mechanisms that are in place all lead to a problem. And we have tried to notify this individual and have gotten crickets in return. So unless some action is taken, I, for one, do not want to have this gentleman's life on my docket. And I think this is very prudent to at least take action to try to make sure that he is put in a better place than he is and get to the total bottom of it all.
So I appreciate the end goal that you just stated, but I don't believe we have an ordinance to enforce to make that happen. But, so is our goal to enforce a township ordinance, or is our goal to have him committed somewhere?
Our goal is to enforce the ordinance and try to assist him any way that we can. Okay, Mr. Roman.
Lisa, can you explain what risks the township faces if we do nothing?
I mean,
That's a good question.
Well, selective enforcement, first of all.
But there's been no complaints.
We haven't actually
we're-
done the enforcement process.
Yeah, we haven't
But
gone
we're
through
aware
any-
of it and we've begun to enforce. We've sent notices of violation. So we're already aware of it, whether we found out about it on our own or whether we found out by a complaint.
Who are they sending it to?
If
he doesn't live there.
The reason there would be no
Where
complaints.
are you mailing the complaints, do you recall?
They were posted on the property.
Posted on the property.
And I did get a call the next day after it was posted, or maybe it was, I think I posted on a Friday. I got a call on the next Monday or Tuesday from spoke with both the property owner and his girlfriend, who we believe is also living there.
And what was their comment, do you recall?
I'll share one more picture with you guys.
The comment was, we're not living on the property. We were told by, I believe by him, that he doesn't have a license, which was an odd thing to tell us. But he only goes here to tinker and do some work, and he travels to his other home.
I like the electrical cord.
See
to
the extension
door.
cord going through the door?
Yeah, it's a nice touch.
So,
Okay.
I have a comment. My suggestion would be to table till next month to get some more information. I'm not necessarily opposed to a remedy, but I think it's overreaching for this board to talk about how this gentleman lives versus talking about what ordinances we have to enforce. That's the job of this board, is ordinances and local government, not to govern how he wishes to live as in this condition. So,
I think this is a mechanism to enforce those ordinances that we have.
but
is
I
what
don't,
this
I
is.
don't think that we have exhausted our mechanisms internally of how we would normally do, like ticket him or bring it to, like, we haven't, this is the first time I heard at the meeting that there was some kind of zoning notification or posting to him. Like, I'm sorry, but this memo just didn't have enough in it for me. I'm learning a lot of things tonight.
I will gather all the information you need if that's going to be the case. You know, we get complaints, Mr. Ruggles? No, we don't get complaints about this property because it is wooded around it. It's a gated access. I have gone out for inspections on the cell tower that is adjacent to this property. You can see it from there. But besides that, yeah, nobody else is going to complain about it. Just because nobody complains about it doesn't mean it's not happening though. So just keep that in mind.
Right, and I believe everything you've showed us in the documentation, and I understand the safety hazards. I just don't think we're approaching it in the right manner.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, I don't think, and I'll speak for myself, but certainly others, we empathize with the gentleman that's there, and we in no way want to second guess our professionals in-house as to the best way to take care of this. My questions were specifically to obtain information to understand what our direction was going to be to council, and it doesn't sound as though she can articulate precisely how the documents are, what's going to be presented in a document. I have personally no problem allowing council to get started on putting that together with help from staff. But I'd like a report then in 30 days, because it's going to take her longer than that to compile it anyway, probably. So I would be a positive vote for a motion. I'm not even sure how to word the motion, however, so I'd be looking for maybe the supervisor or somebody to help put that together. But I think I'd want some more detailed information next month to at least update us on what's happening, because I don't feel comfortable with the information that I have right now.
Sure.
So I guess I'm just a little bit taken aback because, and I appreciate all of the comments, but there's clearly violations of the township zoning ordinance. No question. Between the zoning, the building, and the fire. It's a matter of degree. So when we have a zoning violation or a building violation or a fire violation, we take enforcement action, always, period, right? Sometimes it's by way of writing a ticket if it's somebody who's cooperative or a minor issue. Sometimes when it's a bigger issue and there's a number of fire codes and a number of building codes, and this is a bigger deal, we take it to circuit court where we can, A, get quicker action, where circuit court is more comfortable granting injunctive relief, like do this or do that, as opposed to just fining somebody. So I understand the hesitancy here because we added the element of the person living there, but I think the element of the person living there is really what takes it out of the district court for us and puts it in the circuit court. But there's no question that there are zoning, building, and fire codes, whether he's living there or not. And so I think that's why throwing that in there maybe took everybody off guard, but the reality is, these are zoning, building, fire code violations that have to be enforced. It's whether we go district or circuit, and based on the quantity and the fact that someone's living there is why I recommend we just put it all in one complaint and go circuit.
All right, and a question that I don't know is, in 2002, was it against our ordinance as well? Now, today it is, but I don't know if our ordinance has changed in the last 20 years that to where it wasn't against the ordinance in 2002, but it is now. So if that's the case, it'd be grandfathered in if in fact it was allowed back then.
Agreed, but that's just one of the many violations.
Understand? Yeah.
And that's something that we would dig into when we're preparing the complaint. But it takes many hours to prepare a complaint and get a case ready.
Obviously.
And so that's why we come here first, just to make sure you guys are on board. Then we put the time in and assemble everything.
Okay. I appreciate that. I'm not able to make a motion. I don't feel capable of making the motion because I don't really understand how to make the direction, give the direction.
Just for clarity, are you saying, Mr. Powell, that you want to give Lisa the authority to work on this or to file litigation?
Work on it
Okay.
and
That would be an agreement
to
of that.
where we could give authorization at the very next meeting, or even if we have a special meeting, it could be brought in. I think we might even have a special meeting before our next regular scheduled meeting. And that way we don't slow the process down and maybe keep this gentleman in harm's way any longer than we have to.
Well, I think, I respectfully disagree. I believe we should take action on this now and should allow her to compile her case and move forward with it. And this action may prompt some family members to start moving forward and thinking about the welfare of this individual even more so. And that's my concern. And not to mention the multiple violations that we're aware of.
But I'm not sure if I understand what action, if you'd want to do action tonight, what action would you be after?
I would allow the attorney to move forward and file suit.
File suit to request everything removed and him?
Well, everything removed, and subsequently, if he's removed, so be it, if that trailer's removed.
Does that mean demolishing the barn and everything that's illegally on that property?
I don't believe the barn is an issue.
Yeah, you can't have an accessory structure on a property without
We
an
have
accessory structure.
multiple accessory structures throughout this township on property that was divided many years ago or done in a process, the sins of the grandfather, so to speak. And
So you're saying that is grandfathered in, but the mobile home is not?
I'm not sure, but
Okay.
my point is that we know that there's an issue with the one, we know that there's multiple violations with the litter and garbage. We know there's violations with the boat storage, probably some non-licensed or regulated registered vehicles there. The list goes on. So these are the things that I think if this comes to the attention of the family, that this is, the township is taking action, this may help them also take action upon themselves to remedy some of the issue from their end.
Counselor, what legal action could anyone take to have this gentleman legally committed?
We don't commit people anymore.
I really
You
don't
can't
know.
commit people. You could have an adult welfare check on him or adult CPS involved. So you would contact Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Who has been indeed contacted, Adult Protective Service and a
But
couple of
someone
others
would
too.
have to make like a CPS complaint, it would have to pass intake, and then a worker would come out and check on the gentleman.
So, but if we proceed, somebody
That's not
takes this
for us to
gentleman off the
govern.
property and sets him out in Cedar Island Road and says, don't go on the property again.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Well, in this case, we do have family members that we're in contact with, coupled with the fact that part of our relief that we'll be requesting is removal of the structure that he's been residing in.
But with all due respect, family members cannot make an adult do anything. Yep.
So then we will be demoing a structure.
We would just haul it out of there, yeah.
I mean, it probably won't be that easy, but, and it will cost, right? So we'll have to pay for that.
You assess it to the taxes of the property?
So any action would have to be brought back to this board for additional funds to be able to complete the action that you're seeking, correct?
Well, it depends on where the lawsuit goes. If it's by way of a consent judgment, that would come before you.
Okay.
If it's, I mean, I presume it would be default or consent judgments that will,
But you're applying to enforce a township ordinance, which means we would be responsible to continue the enforcement, including the demolition and the cleanup of the property.
well, the order would order that he do it, and if he doesn't do it, then we can do it and put the bill on the tax roll, which is what we do in all of our enforcement actions. It would be the same relief that we request.
So you would have to come back, trying to get some thought that how we can get you to come back here and let us know what is happening.
Well, listen, we could, assuming the supervisor's okay with it, we can put a litigation update agenda item on every meeting until the litigation's over. Yep.
Which I don't have a problem doing. I mean,
If it's a matter of keeping you in the loop as to what's happening, absolutely, we can just update you every meeting.
Well, we've all decided that we're concerned about the gentleman. And just because we make a motion tonight doesn't mean our concern has stopped. And so.
No, I don't believe that's the intent of this motion. I don't believe it's the intent of this board by any shape or motion. The point I'm trying to make is by taking this action shows that there's going to be consequences for the lack of action on his part and or his family's part, and therefore will push the issue. If somebody came along to me and said, hey, Gramps has got an issue here, I got to do something with him, it's turned into a problem. Well, all of a sudden, somebody's going to pay a little more attention. I believe, at least I would hope.
Because they could go to court too.
They could.
I really don't know what it would take and why it hasn't happened to date.
Mr. Supervisor, let me just add that we are legally bound reporters to the state with anything. We are on that, but because of HIPAA, I am not going to discuss that.
Yeah, okay.
So that's all I'm going to say on that, okay?
Thank you, Chief. Okay, I'm going to move this along because we could kick this can around all day. I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with the litigation as requested and discussed with the attorney, and that the attorney report to us the status at various intervals. I make that in the form of a motion, looking for support.
I'll support that.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
You might do a roll call.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Smith?
No, I'm not comfortable with litigation at this time. I would be more comfortable with gathering some information and bringing it back to
Yes
the
or
board
no?
on, I said no, bring it back to the board with comment on next month.
Trustee Ruggles?
No.
Clerk Noble, yes. Supervisor Cowell?
Yes.
Treasurer Roman?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Trustee Borres?
Yes.
Thank you. Matter passes. Thank you. Proceed as directed. Okay, next item, request to approve inspector fee increase for 2023.
Thank you, Board. Should have received a memorandum for what we're proposing, an inspector rate increase. This will be for mostly my building inspectors and for any plan review that any of my inspectors would do, any training that would be required by the township. This does not include their training that they do to satisfy their licensing requirements. This is simply any training that the township would require and is authorized by the supervisor. Since I've been here, there's not been any of that, but we put it in here just in case that ever comes up. If you've had a chance to look at this, there are 3 items that will be increasing. Below the graph there are the original or the rate schedules from that were previously approved. So with the increase in gas costs, all of our inspectors drive their own vehicles, carry their own insurance. They do their own licensing, pay for all that on their own. With costs increase and everything else going on, I think it's appropriate to have an increase in their rate schedule. I have checked with many of the communities around us. This is right in line with where they're at. There are a few that are higher. There are some that are a little lower, but this is pretty average for where most of the communities are at currently. So, or have moved to just recently. Commerce, in fact, is one that is increasing their rates. So, if everybody's in agreement, and I think this would be good.
Nick, I was trying to look back and see the last time we adjusted these rates, and I couldn't.
It's been a long time.
I couldn't find it.
I couldn't find it either. It's been at least 10 years from my understanding.
Every bit.
Yeah. So you are aware, not in this, but in the near future, we will be looking to do an increase to our permitting rates or permitting fees. That's a little more involved. That has to come before you to get approved. My plumbing, mechanical, and electrical inspectors, they get paid on a percentage of a permit, whereas the building inspectors get paid per inspection. So it's slightly different. That's why theirs aren't included in this. So, you know, I think this is appropriate. I've got very good inspectors that work really well with the township, and I would like to maintain them. So I think it's.
All right, well, the fees are modest. They're not off the charts. And again, I looked back and I couldn't find 10 to 12 years back. It was like, I don't know where, I can't find anything.
Yeah.
So, any questions from the board members?
We had spoke about Tony's fee, that's 35 and now it's going to 40.
He's currently at 30 and he'll be going to 40.
Wouldn't 45 be like a good spot for, you know, because we're going to get busy next year, as we discussed, to keep them coming
Sure.
back?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at that as well. You know, I settled on this because I felt this was again a pretty median for all the other communities
Fair and
around us.
equitable.
It's a good wage increase. You know, when we do get busier, it's not an hourly rate. When we do get busier and he does have more inspections, he gets paid on the inspection. So he will get paid more, you know, weekly, if you will, based on the number of inspections he does. So next year, when the Hill project takes off and some other projects take off, he'll be doing more inspections. So.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Is staffing a problem for inspectors?
Staffing is tough for inspectors, yep.
So they think this will help, even though it's comparable to the neighboring communities?
I do. I think will go a long way to maintaining the talent that we have.
In conversations I've had with a few inspectors, there are several communities around us where their inspectors are starting to retire. And there is going to be this void. So I would think that by keeping our people, you know, paying them fairly, I think we'll retain them for the future. Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion.
Make a motion.
Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah, before I make a motion, I agree with Nick. I think our inspectors are great. I think your request is modest, in support of it. I'd like to make a motion to approve the inspector fee increases for 2023 as requested by the building official.
I have motion looking for support. I have support from Mr. Powell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Item D, Freedom of Information Policy and Procedures Guidelines and Freedom of Information Written Public Summary, Contact Information Update. Essentially, if you go through here, you'll notice that there are not a ton of red lines in here. However, there were some very obvious things that Trish and Carlito, who is the attorney who does the FOIA for the township, went through. And one of them was, for example, when you got to police, it was directed to Chief Dan Keller. When you got to fire, it was directed to the fire chief. When you got to, it was directed to the supervisor. It should just be to the police, to the fire, and to general administrative. And that way, this doesn't have to be amended and/or whenever people come or people go.
Absolutely.
And it's just, this is more of a housekeeping item than anything else, but this puts us in line. Any questions?
No, but if you'll recall, I mentioned this last time we touched on FOIA, and I said, I don't know if the chiefs want that on their plate. So it's good that we're changing it finally.
Any other questions?
Well, even though it's directed toward them, will it still go through the FOIA director?
It goes to the FOIA director in that department,
Okay, thank you.
who's ever the trained FOIA specialist. Okay? Other than that, looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve as submitted.
I have a motion to approve, and I have support from trustee Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Request to consider a CIA Corridor Improvement Authority proposal. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you. Before you tonight is a proposal from Carlisle, Wortman and Associates to advance our Corridor Improvement Authority program, which would include a development plan and a tax increment financing plan. In January of this year, we approved a proposal with another firm that has not advanced yet. That proposal was in the amount of $56,895. I would request that we approve the attached proposal, which is for $30,000 to achieve the same goal, the same work, and it would be done on a schedule. Mr. Carlisle has the schedule that works for the township, and really our goal is to get this plan approved and in such a timetable that we are able to capture TIF revenues through this plan for 2023. So that would mean it would have to be in the next 12 months approved. Mr. Carlisle's proposal suggests a completion date in September. Whether it's September, October, November, December, we've really got a little bit of a cushion in there. I think he's got an aggressive schedule, and I think he would be eager to get to work for us. But I'm very comfortable with him. In your packet, there is a proposal as well as a sample of another Corridor Improvement Authority project that he worked on in Pittsfield. He's helped Independence. He's done a multitude of DDAs as well, and is well-versed not only in the law and in the process of putting these plans together, but is well acquainted with the folks that communities like us have to work with at the county level. When I asked him why it was so different cost-wise, he mentioned that this was a no-frills plan. This isn't a fancy plan. This is a straight down the middle legal document, and we should look at it more as a legal document than, a master plan for land use or for parks and recreation that has tons of graphics and pretty pictures. That's not what this is for, and that's not really necessary at this point. That takes time and it costs more money. So I'm happy that he's come into the fold here, and would again I respectfully request your support on the proposal before you tonight.
Very good. Questions from the board? Mr. No.
Real quick question. So we're going to save, by going to this, how much?
Roughly $27,000. And frankly, if we stick with the original proposal, there's a $5,000 cost that was not part of the approval that we'd probably incur for adding to the TIF plan, adding an area to the TIF plan, so probably more like $32,000.
I want to thank you for doing that. That was a lot of work and good savings there.
Thank you.
Wow.
I have, I hate to admit it, but I've worked with all the major planners in southeast Michigan for 50 years now.
Showing your age?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dick Carlisle is absolute professional. He has represented a large number of communities in this area, and he is without a doubt qualified and well-positioned to be able to assist the township. And with the savings being proposed, I think this board will really enjoy working with Mr. Carlisle.
Very good. Any questions, comments?
No, I thank Mr. Powell for his comments. I had a lengthy discussion with Mr. O'Neill, so I'm all set.
Mr. Powell, you like to make a motion?
Absolutely, Mr. Supervisor. I move that we hire Carlisle Wortman for the reestablishment of the Corridor Authority plan for a fee not to exceed $30,000.
I have a motion. Looking for support?
Support.
I have support from Mr. Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consideration of Hero Valley Youth Assistance Request for funds and memorandum of understanding. If you recall, from time to time, we get the requests because this is a well-used service for this community. Approximately 51% of their referrals are from White Lake. Last year, we did $10,334. This year, they're requesting $11,587. This board does not have to grant that amount. We could have grant really any amount, but with the letter of understanding and the fact that it is impactful and having conversation with the chief, that the importance of this program, that he obviously supports, that we continue supporting this organization. Questions or comments? Mr. Powell.
Was this part of, do we opt any funds for the CDGB
No.
for this?
No.
We did not this year?
No.
I thought we did.
You don't any year you don't.
Can you?
Yes, we have in the past.
We did multiple, but last year, I think in the year before, I don't recall us specifically putting an amount in here under the CBDG, but we can expend this from general funds for the benefit under a letter of understanding, so to speak, of what they're going to provide for us.
You might remember, I always had a concern about it.
Yes.
Until the court started adopting and agreeing.
No.
We had a memo from the court stating that they
True, but
really
That
appreciate
wasn't
this.
from a judge, though. That was from a referee. But we drafted this agreement to lay out exactly why you're contributing, because it's not a donation, it's actually a service. And we've laid that out in this agreement. We drafted this agreement a year or two ago. And it does support the fact that you're actually purchasing a service versus making a donation.
So if you look on page 137 of your packet, you'll see a copy of the agreement that we've done in the past. And what we can do is, we have the ability to just enter the dollar amount, and their co-chair and myself will sign this, and it will engage the community with this particular service. Mr. Roman?
Mike, I think what you were referring to, because I do remember something in CDBG, I think those were expenses in a different category, where these were administrative in nature.
We can pay for programming through CBD, but we can't pay for,
That's exact, I remember that now.
there's just
Yes.
a lot of stuff going on there.
Yes, I remember that
But
now.
I feel like you've only been doing the last couple of years, the home repairs and Haven.
We just did
Through
it last
CBD.
month. Why can't we remember? I have to look now.
I think it was the last couple of years that we
Yeah.
did not.
That was just the
yeah.
building in Haven.
And I understand.
And that's where the draft came up from, because there was concern. and-
Both programs, everything we've, that we're attributing to the CDGB funds is extremely important. This is also extremely important to the residents and the youth of this township, and so I'm
Absolutely.
in full favor of it.
Absolutely.
Just so everyone knows, last year, we approved just under 11,000 as well.
$10,334 is what I've got.
10,334.
Okay.
have a question.
Mr. Ruggles?
Is this the first time that they've requested a representative? They're requesting
They're requesting a
liaison?
representative, but we may or may not put a liaison in there.
A liaison could come from the police
That
department,
can come from the police.
so it wouldn't cost us.
Is
And
this the first time they've asked for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great diversion program, so if you catch a youth that is shoplifting, instead of putting them in the system, youth system makes them jump through some hoops and gives them the counseling, and it's, if you save, 2 out of 10, it's lessen the criminal justice
Yeah, we spend
program.
so much money in this
System.
country on people that are in the system. This is an opportunity for us to invest a little bit of money to keep them out of the system.
Yes.
And this is where I think more emphasis should be. And that's why I'm, Mr. Powell, I mean, I'm a total supporter of this program, and I think it's very important.
So just for clarity for my board members, last month, we did the CDBG funds, and we did minor home repairs, Meals on Wheels, Haven, and youth services, Huron Valley Youth Services.
Okay.
Oops.
Yep. I thought that we had some, but again, it was for programs, not
Programming,
for
not
administration.
administrative, yeah. So they're after us to assist them in such manner.
And what was the dollar amount they're asking for?
They're asking 11,000.
587.
587.20.
20 cents? Really? They put that in writing?
Hey, I got it in writing right here. Okay.
Don't forget that.
Okay. Maybe we'll short them the 20 cents, who knows?
Okay. Would you care to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. I move that we honor the request of the Huron Valley Youth Assistance for the funds and memorandum of understanding in the amount of $11,587 even,
Very good. And allow supervisor to sign.
and allow the supervisor to sign.
We have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, need a second, I'm sorry. Who wants to second that?
second.
You'll second it. Andrew, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
And I want to see the memo when it comes back complaining that we didn't do the 20 cents.
I'll keep
give
you
him the
posted.
20
I'll Trish
cents.
keep you posted on that. Thank you, everyone. Okay. First reading fee ordinance amendment, ordinance number 129. Well, this is a biggie. So, did anybody find it? A couple of them? The little ones in there?
The changes?
Yeah, the foundation for monuments went from 75 cents a square inch to 60 cents a square inch.
We're saving
Price went
money.
down.
Well, that's why I noticed. That never happened. That's not what the rest of them are doing.
Yeah, no. And the variety of permits that we have, there has been, I'll call, they're not extensive increases, but there has been an increase, obviously, in the paperwork and handling and time and everything else that's related to it. They're in the fire section. Some of them relate to permits, inspections, and also the monument reduction. So we can get a bigger, we can afford more now. Any questions?
Mr. Supervisor, I have a
Yes, sir.
question regarding the letter from Clerk Noble. The date of our meeting is December 20th today. The memo is dated December 22nd, and so we shouldn't have this even before us yet.
Typo.
Typo. Good catch.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Mr. Roman, care to make a motion?
Is this the first reading?
Yes.
This will move on to second.
So motion to approve changes to the fee ordinance and move it to second reading.
I have a motion, looking for support?
Support.
I have support from Mr. Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving forward. Okay, yes.
I apologize. When you, with the fee schedule, I didn't hear you mention the fire. I had some fee adjustments too. Did you mention it?
I did mention it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not hear that.
They were included, you're
Okay.
right.
I did include
We wouldn't
them.
miss those.
So,
What's that?
We wouldn't miss those, John.
no, I did include those.
That's mine.
Trustee comments, Andrea?
Earlier tonight, we re-upped 3 of my Parks and Recs people. I wanted to congratulate Deb Darren, Rhonda Grubb, and Kathleen Asseltine for continuing on for 3 more years of service to our very conducive 5-member Parks and Rec committee. It's 3 of those ladies were absolutely very instrumental in the tree lighting ceremony that we had on the 2nd. I heard very many positive reviews on that. It was nice to see it coming back after a few year hiatus, which was absolutely needed. Other than that, have a great holiday season, and we hope to see everyone in '23.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I too will be short. We might get out of here a little early tonight. I want to be silly for a minute and thank everyone so much for our chairs. Like, I love this chair. It's great. So thank you so much for finally getting some nice chairs here for our long meetings. I want to thank Beth Rabus, who has recently resigned from the Library Board of Directors. I want to thank her for her service. And the Library Board of Directors is currently in the process of appointing a new member that I will hope to share with you next month. And I want to thank all of the different community groups that put on wonderful Christmas activities this month. We had the tree lighting and Goodfellows, and my personal favorite was Shop with the Cop. I just love that event. I had the privilege to wrap gifts for children both nights, and I love to see the smiles on their face and what they pick out. And that happens to be one of my personal favorites. And I think that's about it. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a safe holiday season, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year, and look forward to seeing you guys next month.
Thank you. Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah. The Planning Commission meeting on the 15th was canceled, so we'll be meeting, I assume, the first week of January. And we've got 2 people that have been reappointed, Pete Maher and Joe Seward, both get 3-year reappointments to the Planning Commission, and both of them do a fantastic job. So I'm glad those guys will be staying with us. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Thanks.
Very good. Mr. Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I want to personally thank not only this board, but and the volunteers of the committees throughout the township, but especially our professional staff. Every single department is just packed full of professionals, and they are I don't know if it's because of you, Mr. Supervisor, but their presentation and their responses to the public are extremely courteous, very professional, and they go out of their way to help people. And I wanted to thank you personally for setting that example with our staff. There was a time when our residents did not receive a courtesy response from staff, and that's changed around, and I want to thank you for that very much. That being said, I want to wish all of our residents in the township a very Merry Christmas, a very safe and Happy New Year. So thank you.
Very good. Mr. Roman?
I would also like to wish all of our residents and everyone in this room today Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Boy, that was brief, but I like it.
Brief.
Okay. Mr. Noble?
I'd just like to speak about what Chief Keller said. That election worker that spoke at the meeting, we did not give authorization for him to make those comments towards our local businesses. The clerk's office is in support. Those were donations. I'm not required to. Meijer, Walmart, and those absolutely correct. They're wonderful to our community, and I'm 100% behind them. They support our police, our fire, any events that we have out there. And that comment was not solicited by the clerk's office. Second thing I'd like to bring up, I'd like to thank Sergeant Gondek for his outstanding police service on an arrest of a suspect in an unlawful home invasion at 826 while on routine patrol on a Sunday. Caught an individual that was in the house committing theft. I believe it was aluminum siding. He was caught, I think, earlier in the summer over at off of Elizabeth Lake Road in the new, can't think of, what's his name, Rami,
Hope.
yeah, nope, the new memory assisted living place. Off of Williams Lake Road. He had drove through the subdivision and noticed a car that shouldn't be there on a Sunday afternoon. Identified the driver, walked up. Her story didn't match why she was there. Said he was looking for work on a Sunday. He went inside and ended up apprehending the suspect and placed him in custody. And it's just did an outstanding job. And those small attention to detail while doing routine patrol is what makes our community safe with our police department. I just want to personally thank him for that. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
And to all. Well, I myself, sitting on the board of directors for the White Lake Police Foundation, also thank Meijer, Walmart, Kroger, and a variety of other persons in this community that support this very, very worthy organization. And I'd also like to thank my board. Tonight is kind of an interesting thing because this is an example of when an item comes before the board where maybe not everybody agrees on how it needs to be done, but we know something needs to be done. And I think we do not want to have the heavy hand of government. None of us do. But from time to time, when other mechanisms don't work, i.e. family, i.e. other official programs or things of sort, sometimes we have to take that responsibility on and make the decision. You can sit there and think about it all day long, but you got to make decisions in order to move forward. Sometimes they're not easy, sometimes they're not fun, but moving forward, we shall. And this board will continue to do so, and will continue to move forward in a positive manner. As far as a little update on Civic Center, of course, the CIA has moved into gear. You have all graciously reviewed and spent extra time at special board meeting for the RFQ, which went out and incidentally went to CAM today.
Oh, great.
And will be released on.
Everything goes out Thursday. It'll be, we got
Right, they have it, but it's not going to be released until Thursday.
Right, the notice goes in CAM, the notice goes in the open press, and Hannah's already built a module, or the little tab, I should say, with all the other documents on the website. It just needs to be turned on, and it'll be there.
And we'll get greater exposure out of CAM.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. So we are moving forward with that. Elizabeth Lake Road, the final geometry for the road concept is been laid out. There's been a few incidentals that were reviewed by planning. It's gone back to engineering. All the applications, paperwork, documentation. No, we didn't bribe any public officials. That was a question that was asked.
Question.
Okay, honest to God. And a variety of other things have all been signed off on and hopefully submitted at this point to move forward so that we can get our grant money for the road. And now the plan will at some point here, short order, be in the hands of the county.
The Spark grant that you approved went in last week too.
Yeah,
for the building
exactly.
rehab.
That was
went
another
in,
one.
Ahead of schedule last
Correct.
week.
We
Justin submitted
got
on
that
Thursday.
grant in, we did a concept drawing of the proposed building, okay? And it sufficed the need, and it'll get us to where we go.
It's great to know that we're not going to waste that structure, so I.
No, and that's why I had the architect report that walked through and had done that, to save us something, and Park and Rec saw it, and they thought it was a nice structure, and yeah, it's just a starting, it's just something to get us in the door.
Correct.
The details will get worked out a little further down the line, but it would sure be great if we could get a grant to do that and have that going on simultaneously with the park. I mean, how fantastic would that be? Okay, so it's all good. I'd like to thank again all of my fellow board members, all our residents out there. Wow, where'd the year go? So, yeah, it's nuts.
Mr. Supervisor, I
Yes.
apologize, I did think of something. Would you make an announcement of some kind that if, every time the Weather Bureau says we're going to get snowed, we end up with a dusting because we missed a bullet? But if it does become bad, could you make an announcement as to where our residents could obtain some help if in fact the electricity goes out?
We are actually working on that, so we're trying to have that
So
remedy.
they
right
can
now.
call your office?
We'll put it on our website, and we'll have that available. I was working with John on that, trying to set up an alternate location in case we have a car failure.
Okay, thank you.
I'm still waiting for some answers, yeah.
Okay.
So we are
Can't
aware
wait
of
too
it.
much longer if it's going to snow
I
on
know,
Friday.
I can prod them as much as I can, but yeah.
The last time that there was all this huffla about a snowstorm coming and everything else, we talked about it internally, and we decided, okay, everybody doesn't have to come in the next morning. The next morning, it was barely dust on the
Right.
ground. So now, we have to try to see, and they were real, it's 90% it's going to happen, and it just went north.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. But I think this is a little bigger system, so everyone be careful. Which, last thing, check on your neighbors. If this storm does hit, please check on your neighbors. Don't leave pets outside. It will be deadly. And if you need help, we'll do whatever we can on our end. But, we will be limited if the snow gets really, really bad.
Just a little plug.
Yes.
This board is moving towards of having a community center built with our township hall.
Yes.
Where we might be able to accommodate emergency services.
Emergency situations, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
So as we move forward. That I'll say goodnight. God bless. Merry Christmas.
Yes.
And a very, very happy, blessed, and safe New Year.
Amen.
I'll put that in the form, I will say, I'll make a motion to adjourn. I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.